We will call this meeting to order at 6:03 p.m.
Goodbye.
One of the things I get to do at the start of our meetings is the territory land recognition by recognizing Grand Prairie's the historical and modern home to many diverse Indigenous peoples and carrying this basic truth. As leaders in our community, we share the responsibility to learn and share our history and use that truth to support our work leading reconciliation, both in a division and in the community. I would also like to review our universal guiding principles. So for everything we decide and do, we'll hold ourselves accountable and we'll ask, is it good for students? Will it build trust and good relationships? Will it help us improve? Is it a responsible thing to do? And are we being open, honest, and ethical? All right, so we're looking at the agenda for the start of the 2025-26 year. Anything to add to the agenda?
I do have two, Madam Chair. One, we could add a new 3A under reports for chair report. And at the end of the meeting, if we could go briefly in camera to discuss a move to go into camera to discuss a labor relations update.
Any other additions or amendments to the agenda? Okay, then looking to approve as amended, looking for a motion. Vice Chair Cook. All right, all those in favor? Perfect. And we've got the trustee self-declaration or conflict of interest. If anyone's seen anything on this agenda that makes them think they have a conflict, they can let us know now or at any time, but now. All right, then we've got some minutes to approve. So I'm looking for a motion to approve committee of the whole minutes from June 10th, 2025. Trustee Ouellette, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, looking for a motion for the regular board meeting minutes of June 10th, 2025. Trustee Johnston, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, and lastly, we had the special board meeting minutes of June 26th, 2025. Looking for a motion to approve those. Trustee Martin? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Perfect, okay. We had no business arising from the minutes, so we're gonna go to summer school summary and career path planning. Superintendent McDonald?
Turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Robinson for our introduction.
All right.
I would just as quickly turn it over to Director Kim Frickus to get us underway. We've talked a little bit last year about career pathways planning and certainly about our commitment to opportunities for our students through summer school. So Director Frickus is going to talk to us a little bit about what we've learned in year 2 of offering summer school programming and what we're thinking about for next year. And then also just a quick update on our career pathways planning, which we've had a chance to talk to the board and then other members in the community as well. And this is a summary in lots of ways of the work coming together. And we'll look for a point later in the year to give a more meaningful and in-depth introduction to the update on the work we're doing that way. But today is about an update.
Thank you. So another successful year of summer school, a few new additions of courses. So we were able to offer some additional 1 credit CTS courses that were in middle, so students could complete them fully online, as well as we expanded some of our core programming to add some additional math and science courses for students. The biggest addition this year was actually in-person physical education, 10 and 20. So students could receive 3 credits in those courses. And one of our Charles Spencer phys ed teachers, Dusty Sage, ran that at Charles Spencer. So we had worked with maintenance and operations to make sure we had access to that space, but they were out and about in the community for the 8 days that the students were on site for full days. So they were playing disc golf, they were at Eastlink at the pool, they were on the trails doing hikes. And so she had them out and active and looking at nutrition. And so that is a program that was successful. Student feedback was fantastic. And at the end of summer, she said, I will grow this so I will fill more than 1 cohort next year. And so she had a lot of fun, but the students also had a lot of fun and were able to be introduced to a lot of things that are in their community. And that is one of the intents of that phys ed programming at the 3 credit level, is to get them active and know things that they can carry on after high school. So we had a few more students than last year, but the students that were completing our non-off-campus courses were receiving more credits this year than they did last year. So our credit count from summer school is up. Our registered apprenticeship is also up from 115 to 170 credits during the summer. So we still have students that do registered apprenticeship throughout the regular school year. These are students that either continued into the summer with extra hours or just started some of their apprenticeship in the summer. So that is good. As well as work experience. We had lots of students participating in work experience. Talking to our off-campus coordinators, we talked about this when we were talking about career pathways, is we still have more students interested than what we have in placements, either with work experience or in RAP. So we know that that's an area that we really need to focus on moving into this year. We started some of that work last year. We've been talking to careers as well as their role, and we'll be reaching out and meeting with Dale as we start the year from careers to see if we can support in different ways from the division level so that we can increase the amount of placements for the youth in our schools. So that's work moving forward. The other piece that is exciting work and planning that we're going to be starting right away is we want to look at offering 1 week CTS courses next year during summer school. So 5 days intensive programming. So if you're interested in foods, so maybe you're a grade 9 student that's going into grade 10, maybe you're a high school student that it just wouldn't fit into your timetable, because we know some of our CTS courses are definitely oversubscribed for the space that we have. So they'll be able to come for 5 days over the summer and participate in some of those CTS areas. So we're also in discussion with our other local school boards to see if this is something that they're also interested in, because we know we have a limited number of CTS teachers to tap on the shoulder. So we're going to be surveying our teachers to see what they're interested in, and then looking at the teachers that would be interested in offering summer programming against those courses that are oversubscribed at our high schools, so that those kids that aren't getting into the programming during the regular school year would have an opportunity to do some of those courses during the summer. So that's something that we've already started discussions, and that'll be early planning so that we can offer some of that new programming next summer and get those credits for those students, especially those students that are finishing grade 9 and going into grade 10, because they can start their grade 10 credits as soon as their last day of grade 9 finishes. So that's one of our goals for next year. Any specific questions about summer school?
I think one of the things, like just while we're thinking of a question, if I can highlight The other thing we're going to be more direct about next year is the marketing of summer school as an opportunity for students. And so we had year one where we were testing an idea whether it would be successful or not. In year two, we know we now have solid legs underneath us. And the way it's worked in the past couple of years is we relied on primarily our high school counselors and teachers to tap kids on the shoulder and to present the idea. Here's an option, summer school will be good for you. We're going to be more direct in promoting the idea of students of all types being able to participate in summer school as a means of increasing that enrollment as well. Knowing now that we can scale up, right? We were conscientious of not kind of over promoting and under providing the service potentially. And now we know that we can do what we need to do and we could scale it up quite significantly. And so the ability to promote it is something that's on the, as part of our planning too, so.
And we've talked about, the power of our students, right? So student advisory, what role, can student advisory have in helping us also spread that message in the schools? That was, definitely one of the groups that we identified in helping us, message that this year moving forward.
Questions both?
So when I think of summer school, I'm thinking, oh God, it's all summer, but it's 5 days and you can, in grade 9, you're going into grade 10, in 5 days, you can get 5 credits.
It can look different, but
Yes.
Yep, so for the programming, we have to offer a certain number of hours to meet our Alberta education requirements. And so this year we ran summer school from July 2nd till July 25th. And that gave us enough hours. So students that were working on courses had that much time to complete it. We had students that were finished some of their core programming in 2 weeks. We had some students that finished COM in 5 days. Phys Ed, because they were doing full days of Phys Ed, they were able to fit that in 8 days. And for our CTS programming, looking at 3 different models across the province, we'll be able to get the hours in 5 days. So exactly, start on a Monday, finish on a Friday, and you have your credits done. And then they.
kind of like going to camp. Kind of like going to camp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
I have a question. I was wondering if most of the students who are they attending because they had timetable issues, or are they attending to try and graduate early?
so there is, as the students are applying, we have shared spreadsheets between the high schools and Bridge Network that houses our summer school, and Mr. Dunfield oversees it. And so I was going through all of those. And so we have a whole range of students. So we have students that are doing credit recovery. So that's students that have completed the course at their high school, but they were not able to actually successfully pass the course. So instead of redoing the whole course, they work with the teachers at their current high school to find out, was it just one unit that they weren't successful at? And in summer school, they can redo that one unit and use the rest of their marks from their semester work. And we call that credit recovery, and we can submit that as credit recovery. So we had some students that were doing that, just coming back, doing a portion of their course so that they had a passing mark in it, and then they'll be able to continue without having to repeat that whole course in a semester next year or this school year. We had students that were in grade 9 and looking to get some things fast tracked. So some French immersion students who know that because they have to take the extra language, they're going to have less options and available to them just because of that. So we had French immersion students that were in there. We had some students in Phys Ed who don't like Phys Ed and they don't want to spend a quarter or a semester in Phys Ed. So when they found out it was 8 days and they could have Phys Ed 10 done, and then they didn't have to take another Phys Ed course in high school if they didn't want to, they were all over that. And Miss Sage is like, and I'm going to, by the end of the 8 days, convince them that Phys Ed is a place they want to be, right? So that was her mindset. And then we had some kids that, that have those full timetables and we're looking to do different things, and other kids that were looking to fast track. So we had a large range of students, and that's part of the communication and messaging is sometimes we think of summer school as a punitive. I wasn't successful at school, so now I have to go to summer school. But really we're seeing it, students using it as a way to either fast track or be able to take things that they can't fit into their schedule.
So that, just quickly, that model Kim described, or Director Frick has described at the beginning, called credit recovery, really is the backbone of the bridges work in lots of different ways. So it happens in summer school. Somebody's missed part of a course. They need that part to complete the course. Throughout the year, that also happens at the Bridge Network as one of the main ways that they support students,
And,
not just summer school.
yeah, and our, other high schools have also adopted that.
Yeah.
And so instead of repeating the whole semester, that's the first thing that they're doing now is they're looking at where was the student not successful and do they need to repeat all of the content or they're just portions. And so through their independent learning centers that they have set up that teachers are attached to, students are able to also do credit recovery throughout the year in the high schools. So a lot of the credit, actually the majority of all the credit recovery students from this summer, it was because of a semester 2 course that they weren't successful.
You've obviously explained why it's needed, right? So, Director Frick, this might not be a fair question to ask you, but I'm gonna ask you and you can feel free to tell me, you'll have to figure it out. But I was wondering, understanding that pilots take a bit of money to kind of get them going, do you know if the summer school is self-sustaining?
It is. So there's two components to the summer school. And the funding for summer school, we're always, and Ola, jump in here, but the way that we're funded is the funding that we're going to receive in the 25-26 school year is actually the credits that were achieved in the 24-25 school year. So we're a year behind. So we took that into consideration when we were doing our budgeting and our planning. So this year when I ran the credits that were not off-campus credits, so just our credits from all of our phys ed programming, our CTS programming, and our core programming, that covered the staffing costs this summer. And so if we move forward with the same number of teachers, we know that we're going to actually expand our number of credits. So we'll be at the point where we're able to cover costs, plus we have extra above that. So the long-term plan moving forward is, this is one of our strategies for us to be able to support dual credit. So for our dual credit students that are taking courses at either Northwest Polytech or Northern Lakes College, we pay the tuition for the students to attend. The students don't pay their own tuition. And because of our weighted moving average funding, we don't get additional funding when students finish those courses. So to get creative to make sure we have a sustainable model is we're looking at our summer school programming along with the credits that we submit in the summer for off campus, because we also get funding for those credits. So between those two pieces, that'll be our sustainable money to support dual credit tuition for students moving forward, plus cover the costs of all of our staffing for our off-campus coordinators and our summer school teachers.
Yeah. What was the difficult question?
Yeah, no, well, never mind. Does anyone else have any questions for Director Burkett on that report? Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing that with us. It was great update. As always, feel free to join.
Well,
well,
part two,
With part two.
Part two?
yes,
So
talking about career pathways.
Quick update. So we have the full framework. I did not bring the full framework tonight, but I wanted to bring, because we had talked about making sure that we created kind of like a 2-page summary. So if we're going to other Rotary meetings and doing engagements, we kind of have that quick summary of what our career pathway framework looks like. So the front page and our communications officer, Hillary Gould, is fantastic. I had a vision that was stick people, and she brought it to life for us. The other piece that I wanted to point out, because we did look at this content before, is we talked about the different engagements that we did. And the last engagement that we did in the school year was with actually the Student Advisory Committee. And we took some time and we really looked at some of the words and what they meant. And there are multiple changes in the full framework, but specifically on our pathway of how we labeled the words for explore, expand, engage, experience, and evolve. And so when I took their feedback to my principal group that was working on this with me and gave them the explanations that the students gave me, they totally agreed. And so we made those changes that the students suggested to the framework. And excuse me, Superintendent McDonald And Deputy Superintendent Robinson talked about one of the things we need to do is let our community know all those things that we offer and all the things that we are doing to support. And so that's what the back page really summarizes, our mission and our vision. But then in this charter, all the things that we do with our partners to support our students to be successful at high school, but also be ready for the world of work and post-secondary when they're done high school. So when you see the whole framework, one of the pieces of feedback was that terms piece, so that some of these terms are broke out. So if you're not sure what a registered apprenticeship programming is or dual credit, all of those pieces are broke out in the full framework with descriptions. And so version 1 of our document, and through feedback this year, we'll do modifications. But the other piece that was changed was the tagline. It went to the students as career pathways, choose your own adventure. And we had received feedback from staff as well as some community feedback with different options. And so we presented those to the students, but we also said, hey, come up with your own. And so your future, your way was actually one of the other ones that the students suggested. And when I took it back to my committee, it fit, and it's the student's voice in there, because this is what it's about. It's about the students. So that's the update.
The work is underway.
Mhm.
Any questions on career pathways? That's exciting. That's documented. It's a good complement to your speech, right? To the explainer. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Prefix and, yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then we're gonna go to 3A, board chair report. So I just have two things. One is that the Minister of Education and the Alberta School Boards Association have scheduled another board chair superintendent engagement in late September that Superintendent McDonald and I will be going to. So those topics are driven a lot by the ministry and ASL. Solely by those two groups, but a lot by the ministry. So we don't have a firm agenda yet, but Superintendent McDonald and I will both be attending that. I said in Edmonton, but I meant Calgary. Yeah, I was wishing it was in Edmonton, but so yeah, we'll provide an update after that meeting. That was one thing we wanted to talk about, but the other was we had on our we had talked about at a previous board meeting that we were going to send a letter to the Minister of Education regarding funding. And the minister made some announcements in late June after our last board meeting, making some tweaks to some grant funding in those specific areas. So I think we've decided to hold off on that letter for now and reevaluate things with the Advocacy and Engagement Committee, making recommendations in the new year. And when I say new year, I mean new school year. That's an update on that. And that's all I had. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we'll move on to trustee Buziak, the Alberta School Boards Association meeting of June 11th.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just scrolling through my notes here, if you just give me a second. So yeah, the meeting was held June 11th. It was supposed to be in person in Fort Vermilion, but due to the forest fires, it got moved online. We heard a report from Director Henkel. What else did we hear? We heard a report from President Marilyn Dennis. She talked about the Canadian School Boards Association meetings are now moving online, and they'll be online only. There were 9 winners for the Lieutenant Governor Student Awards. Letters to appropriate ministers have been sent with respect to position statements that the ASBA has taken. They met recently, as in June, regarding the Real Property Governance Act, the legislation Bill 51, Bill 57, regarding library materials. They still have many questions unanswered around the Real Property Governance Act, including insurance and maintenance and those sorts of issues. And those will be addressed in future discussions with the ministry. We heard from Vice President Shelley Bazook. She said the PDAC always meets before business meetings to be ready, just so you know. She wanted SGM feedback. They focused this time on national politics rather than provincial politics. Do we want to keep it that way? Planning for the next FGM is underway, but if you have feedback with respect to what form of politics should be covered at these meetings, you can let her know or let me know and I'll pass it on. We heard from Dr. Aboud. Apparently on June 13th, there was a board chairs and ministers and Minister of Education engagement. June 16th, there was a session on bills 33 and 34, the privacy legislation. Planning is underway with the Provincial Bargaining Coordination Office regarding strategies. There's an update coming on a briefing note on the issue of Jordan's principal funding. Moving on, then we heard about the Zone 1 budget from Michel Boisvert. There are 3 versions of his own budget being considered, all of them centered around how fast the surplus the zone has accumulated is burned up. And at the meeting, we chose to burn it up in 2 years. There was a lot of discussion around small rural schools funding. David Rushton of Peace River took the lead on the issue here. He said they have many schools with less than 150 students. They'd like to see the committee take this forward and join forces with other local school boards experiencing similar issues with inequalities related to location. They're being penalized, in his opinion, for low building utilization rates, and it's costing them funding. The transportation walk limits associated with busing hurts them. And so a committee was struck of interested Zone 1 people that will work with David Rushton on this issue. Karen Scholl, Tammy Henkel, Michelle Boisvert, and Crystal Owens will be joining forces with him. We chose to make the March meeting next year virtual in addition to December, January, and February. There was discussion around the round table where individual boards report to the zone, and some board members are saying they're having difficulty coming up with things to report. So the round table sessions will be every second meeting starting in October. So we won't need a Grand Prairie School Division board report for every meeting. I think that's just about it, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that report, Trustee Buziak. Any questions? So Trustee Buziak, was that budget passed at that last meeting in June?
I think it was, yes.
Excellent. All right. Then we'll move on to the Public School Boards Association meeting, Vice Chair Cook.
Okay, so on August 6th to 8th, I was in Red Deer for the annual PSBC meeting that is held in a school division. And you'll remember last year we had hosted. And so then this year it was Red Deer, and they actually sort of shared that responsibility with Wolf Creek. And so it's always an excellent opportunity when a division hosts to hear a fair bit more about what's happening in a division and get some ideas about, percolating about maybe things that we might be interested in doing. And so it kicked off on the Wednesday at the Alberta Sport Hall at Fick Hall of Fame. And then the following day, there were sort of school tours and meeting with students. And it was interesting because we went to Black Falls, which is considered to be a very fast sort of growing community. And it was the first time I believe that I was in a high school that they have actually built for capacity. So they have half as many students as they are anticipating. So they're building it for like 1,800 students, but it has 900 students in it. So it was amazing. And of course, state of the art. I mean, not that we don't have state of the art schools too, but it was really interesting to tour. Then later that day, we went to Lacombe, also to their Conflict High School. And what was really sort of interesting there is the students showcase 2 things: their robotics program, which is really advanced. And again, I know we also have a robotics program, but another thing that they had was actually, basically they have a teacher, like a teacher champion for sure, that is focused on the environment. And so there's specific courses for these kids to take. And so they are growing tilapia, like fish. They're growing grapes, they're growing cherries, they're growing gardens. They have bees. And so they even during the summer, you have sort of an adopt a bee program. And so they're able to offer certification to these students. Adopt a Hive is actually what it was called. So it was really quite amazing. And so they built, again, environmentally sort of friendly, and I don't begin to understand the science sort of behind the, how they've done this, how they managed to make this greenhouse efficient solely on solar energy. And so when you walk in, was a huge banana tree with bananas, figs, limes, etc. But what was really, I think, amazing was that the students actually were doing the tour. So of course I had to walk away, and they have goats, also they have goats. So I had goat cheese, I had butter, I had all kinds of jam. I mean, I like to support every local economy I visit. So what was more, exciting than supporting those students? So it was really, really, really impressive. The afternoon was spent at the Sheldon Kennedy Center of Excellence, which is basically a center of multidisciplinary programs, including Alberta Health Services, Sexual Assault Center, Child Advocacy Center. So it is all these organizations working together in this sort of beautiful venue. And so that was certainly very, very interesting as well. And it was a great example of collaboration and partnership in and around the Red Deer area. They had an inpatient step up, step down sort of unit for kids. It was called Step Up, Step Down for child and youth that had issues with mental health and addiction. And it was, again, amazing. The next day was spent at another high school in Red Deer. And the takeaway there that I would like to share with you was around the Red Deer Public School Fire Academy. So, Trustee Martin may know a little bit sort of about this as well, but it's a partnership with the City of Red Deer Emergency Services. And so it's a combination of practical training, classroom training, certification support, which would all, be great sort of experience for recruiting for future fire professionals. And so it's certainly made me think about the potential for the Peace Country and our division, that's for sure. Then the rest of the days are spent sort of business meetings. And so we also discuss budget because in the fall meeting, which will happen post-election, so November, will be the PSBA will be hosting their meeting. And so there is a budget presentation, and there will be sort of again, a more wholesome discussion, but that's where the budget would be approved. And there is a recommendation for a slight increase to the budget. Good news, Black Falls has joined the Public School Board Association. So it was great to have sort of an additional school and some additional insight. So that was great. A couple of bylaw changes, which I think are really good that the PSBA was looking at. Basically, they did a bit of restructuring. They used to have 2 vice presidents, for those of you that had attended meetings in the past. And so they flattened the structure and changed sort of 2 vice presidents to just 1. And that has some financial savings as well. And then the other thing that they did, you'll sort of see when you get communication from Troy Tate, they sort of changed his titling to CEO, which from executive director, which seems to be what a lot of organizations are doing with leadership roles. And then lastly, maybe second last, one of our colleagues from Red Deer had done a sort of a master's thesis, and it was all about sort of the unconstitutional overreach. So just talking a little bit about what it talked about really was the Education Act and how perhaps legislation is not being followed when it comes to some of the charter school things that are being done sort of as of late. So it is a paper that was shared with us, and if you would like to read it, I'm happy to share it. And then I have very, very humble trustees, I know, and but on behalf of the Public School Board Association, it gives me great pleasure to present long service recognition awards to Rob Martin for 8 years of service. And for 8 years of service. Thank you for all that you do for PSBA, and that is my report.
Excellent report.
Any questions for Vice Chair Cook? No questions?
Just a little excited, we're here with James.
He just called his wife.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cook. Trustee Martins, we have some minutes from a past meeting and comments about today's meeting.
Yeah.
Seat engagement.
Minutes from June 10th, they're in the packet, any questions? Asked. We also had another meeting today. We just discussed, finalized the advocacy engagement tracker. And so that's just the way we can keep track of what we're advocating for, what's completed, what we're working on, what stage in the process we are, and like that. So we'll have a copy of that for the next board packet. That was look for it. Go ahead.
Superintendent John, are you gonna share that in the next board package with the minutes or?
The advocacy tracker, I was thinking about it. We didn't talk about it today. We can include it with the minutes for sure. But I'm wondering about, we revisit that every few months at the committee meeting, that it's really, should be really quite easy to just update it online on the advocacy webpage as well.
That's interesting.
Something to think about and perhaps discuss at the next committee meeting.
Sure. We also reviewed draft governance framework. There's a couple more tweaks we want to make to it. We went through a bunch of today, but we'll get that one out once it's finished. Again, we talked about some of the stuff we talked about in meeting where it talks for the MLA meeting, just different topics that we're going to talk about. And then we reviewed that draft board of trustees attendance request form. So essentially, when we're requested to go to events, schools, that kind of stuff, we're going to ask these to get filled out. So then we would essentially central office staff and know when we're attending, where we're at, what we're kind of doing, and not so it's overreach, just so we can make sure we're capturing and have people on hand to take pictures, whatever we need to just to show the work that and then the request that we're taking on. And then we just discussed about ASBA awards. So every year there's awards, and the deadline is February 16th. They come in around Community Engagement Award, Distinguished Service Award, School Board Innovation Excellence Award, and Trustee Recognition. And we talked about a little bit today. We just don't like anything right now that we're doing kind of matches, but we're gonna keep it on the docket for the year. It's kind of maybe jot down some notes that maybe some things we're doing this year will then be something we can nominate for next year's awards through ASBA. And then we get to watch the videos. They're all good, except we had devil eyes.
Devil eyes. Is that what we said?
John, John.
I need to redo mine. I have
Yeah,
issue.
so they'll be shared up shortly here when
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah, the Advocacy and Engagement Committee got a chance to see a draft version of the final videos. One has to be reshot. As soon as that's done, we'll be posting them online and Chair Nellis had a very bad reflection in her glasses that we couldn't get rid of in post. We will be promoting them through social media, through our schools, through our school councils, that sort of thing, through our vision page, but you'll be in the agenda for the next meeting and ready to go.
Any questions on Trustee Martin's report? So yeah, expect a few things in the next agenda, the governance framework, the attendance tracker, videos, all sorts of stuff. Thank you for your report. Back to you, governance minute, Trustee Martin.
Yeah. So I'm the second one to do this.
Yep.
It's potentially for me, kind of looking through it and just as trustees, how do we ensure we remain focused on governance and then avoid drifting into operational matters? So I think we can think about is as trustees, our core responsibility is governance, setting direction, establishing policy, and allocating resources and ensuring accountability. We're not involved in day-to-day management. This is the domain of the direct of essentially our central office staff. Trustees operate at a systems level, focused on outcomes for all students, not operational details or individual concerns. When trustees get involved in operational matters like specific staffing decisions or school level concerns, it blurs lines and debate. confusion and undermine leadership. One of the things I feel it's really important as it's coming into an election year and something that possible changes in the board is around governance and that the board especially speaks with one voice. So once a decision is made by the board, it becomes a collective will of the board, even if not all trustees voted in favor. Speaking with one voice is essential for maintaining the integrity and public trust of the board. It does not mean giving up individual opinions, but it does mean respecting the process and not undermining decisions publicly or through back channels. This principle reinforces our collective responsibility and helps ensure consistent communications with the public, staff, and stakeholders. It also models respectful democratic governance. That's kind of the two things I came up with for governance.
Those both good,
Yeah.
well said.
Excellent, very well said. Who would like to go next?
Trustee Olet, thank you.
I think
Chris,
yes.
he's excited.
I thought Chris wanted to be after you.
You
You, Chris?
I don't, I'll go next if you want.
Fine.
Perfect, thanks.
Go ahead, pick the topic, so.
Maybe Sandy will work with you.
Yeah,
Give you-
I gave, there's a list in the spring. We'll sort through it.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
didn't go off the list, I went off.
That was
You enjoyed your own?
Yeah, I like, I tried to find the list, I couldn't find it. Oh, we
Good job. Great. It's very great.
after trustee Johnson.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That means you're next, trustee Buziak, after trustee Olet. Awesome. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
individual trustee reports. We'll start with you, trustee Johnson, since you were so nicely to volunteer.
I have nothing to report.
Trustee Olet. Trustee Buziak, do you have anything you wanted to share?
I do not, but thanks for asking.
Chair Cook.
Well, just one thing, and that is I had the pleasure of attending the Reading University graduation in July, and I think it was another successful year, and there's many highlights, but it is very impressive how over the years, Reading University has formalized itself. They are able to give sort of grants to former students, and it was just a really great lunch, and heard great things about it. So I'm really proud that we, as a division, continue to support it.
Yeah, I'm sad to miss it.
Mr. Martin, did you have
Not there.
The only thing I wanted to share was, I didn't see it on here, but the last day of school was Carl Spencer's graduation, and it was another great event and well attended. It was, yeah, it was really fun to watch those guys walk across the stage and get their accolades. It was, yeah, good up to that organizing team. It was great. All right, moving into superintendent's report. Superintendent McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. It was an interesting summer. There was quite a bit of new information distributed by Alberta Education. And so I've captured much of that in my report, but in an abbreviated form. And I believe with most of it, you were copied on emails from the Alberta School Boards Association that provided more details. I'll touch base on some of the highlights. And if you have any questions, please do raise them now or we can even come back to them later. There is quite a bit of information and quite a bit that is new with respect to that. I want to thank Director Frickus for her summer school leadership. Her work along with our school administrators to develop this program over the last 2 years and to build it into what it is and leave us wanting more with respect to what it potentially can be for students. Really, it does illustrate that commitment to providing flexible programming options for students. So thank you a great deal, Mrs. Frickus. I don't have much information to add with respect to the Minister's Task Force on Aggression and Complexity, other than what I've added in my report or linked to on the Alberta Education webpage. The minister made a commitment that task force would be working as fast as they could with updates coming in the fall. So I believe they've had some organizational meetings and they're just kind of starting to get going now with some meetings planned in the next little bit. The terms of reference, I checked those. The terms of reference, it's got a 6-month term with an option to extend it. But the minister has been very clear that he's looking for something to come out of that fairly quickly. So I think we can expect an update in the fall. So I included some teaching and learning updates, some just general changes that are occurring this school year. One that I really wanted to emphasize and highlight is the new translation support that our division has to offer. If you go to that link that is in my report on our division website, and it's in under parents, I believe. Our students, parents, interpreting services. In the upper left-hand corner of our webpage, since we transitioned to our new webpage 2 school years ago, we've had the opportunity to translate our pages into a great list of languages. On this page now, you can learn how we provide translation support to parents, why we provide translation.
Interpretation.
Translation, interpretation, thank you. There's some frequently asked questions. There's signage at school desks, school reception desks, at our front desk. We're just really excited to have this additional levels of support for our school division as our division becomes increasingly more diverse. I jumped over the Alberta School Councils Association meeting management workshop, and I just wanted to emphasize for anybody who may be watching the video after this is published, we've arranged with the executive director of the ASCA, Alberta School Councils Association, to have a in-person presenter available to run their meeting management workshop on Thursday, September 18th. After this meeting, we're going to be promoting that. We're going to be distributing the information to our last year's school council chairs, and we're going to be providing it to school principals and asking them to distribute to everybody who's interested or who's been interested or anyone else who they think is appropriate. And we're asking people to reply in advance. And purpose for that is it's we talked about this last year. It's very tight to the start of the school year. We know that it's busy. However, the meeting management workshop is a critically important professional learning opportunity for school councils to engage in at the start of their term, at the start of their year. And so what we want is we want to have enough people who are able to come out that we have, a critical mass of attendance. We're seeking again over half of our school council. There was lots of interest expressed last spring. Now we just need people to kind of renew their commitment this fall. So we're really hopeful, and we're going to push hard to get this information out to everyone and sign up in advance. And we're really looking forward to that being a resource for our school councils this year. Other highlights, some technical changes and about the early literacy and numeracy assessment dates. That was an advocacy point for school boards last year, saying we hear from our schools and our school division leadership that those early literacy assessments are too soon. Alberta Education has moved them back in response to that advocacy. And I think that's a check in board advocacy at the provincial level. And also just some reminders about curriculum implementation and what's happening this year. Before I move to the items for action or discussion, if there are any questions, it'd be my pleasure to address them.
I was wondering with the new curriculum, how are the resources? Have they gotten better from the province or are they similar?
I'm going to have to ask our Director of Teaching and Learning that question because it is my belief that I am not as involved in it as she is, that there has been no noticeable increase in the number of resources or the pace at which resources are being approved. But I will follow up and report back.
I wonder if, resources don't seem to be going away and, if that was the case, it might be an interesting thing to bring to zone one and ask the Alberta education representative. If we can get an update or if we can put a bug in their ear and just, make them bring it back to the zone, at the zone level. So maybe we'll, once you have an answer to that, we can see about maybe bringing it to the zone one meeting.
I'll return curriculum implementation to my report for September 9th.
Does everyone sound good to you guys? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, trustees. If there are no further questions on those items, 2 items for action. First is Board Policy 20. In the Education Amendment Act of 2024, there were some changes made to the government's position with respect to supporting gender identity in our students. And one of the changes is that previously, the legislation indicated that schools who are working to support students through gender identity, questions about gender identity, were encouraged to, and this is how our board, I have section 11 of our Board Policy 20 reads, we're encouraged to work with the student's parents if it was appropriate and the student consented. The new legislation that was introduced requires that engagement with parents. And so you see in your package a small change to the wording in section 11. And I'm asking trustees for a motion to approve that policy. I will note that this policy did not go through the usual process of policy committee. It was a change that was made, that was identified as being needed as a result of legislation. So it is a new topic to the board today. So if there's discussion that needs to occur, certainly we'll do our best to support that discussion.
Any questions on this change? Mr. Martin?
I struggle with it a little bit in the sense that we're supposed to have welcoming, caring, safe schools. And I feel like this puts us in a position where we're voting against the interests of some of our students possibly. And they're feeling safe to be able to be safe at school, but now they have to come to school and they can't be safe there because their parents can be told. So I struggle a little bit. I understand it's essentially said the government have to do this, but that's why I struggle with it. But
Yeah, it's more of a compliance piece than
Yeah.
it is a philosophical piece.
And certainly, I think the sentiment that you described, Trustee Martin, is what drove the initial wording in legislation. Our work now, as a result of these changes, not just this change, but the other changes that are part of the Education Amendment Act of 2024, are to find ways to be able to remain compliant with the provinces, with provincial expectations, and to maintain that sense of safety. I see there being a great deal of conversation with students, great deal of offering of supports, and that is one of the things that accompanied this these legislative changes was the identification of a number of different counseling resources for students and parents. We, of course, have our own within the division, but there are others as well. Your point, I think, is valid and one that we hope to address through practice. Our belief in the value of our students has not changed one iota, and their needs remain paramount for us, for our staff.
Any other questions on this? All right, there's a recommended motion there, seeing no other hands. Can I get someone to make that motion? Can I get anyone to make that motion? All right, I'll make the motion to move that the board approve the change in Board Policy 20 as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Trustee Guzia, can you voice your vote? All those in favor? Is his hand up? Yeah,
That's a hand up there, yes.
thanks, sir. All right, all those opposed? All right, that motion passed.
Thank you. And next up, in the last item in my report this evening, I want to extend my appreciation to the board for taking a look at board meeting schedules. From an administration perspective, we appreciate the opportunity to investigate practice in other divisions and the board's willingness to explore that. We've discussed in committee on a few occasions over the course of the last 12 months, actually. I think the first time we talked about this was last August. Different approaches taken by other boards. The trustees have been provided with a great deal of information about practices in other divisions, potential changed board meeting schedules. And I think what we were talking about over the last several months is not making any changes that would encumber a future board, but in terms of thinking about changes, if there are any changes that this board would recommend, if they could be brought up at this time and administration would take it forward to the organizational meeting for the next board happening at early, I guess, late October next year. I think it's October 28th is the draft schedule for the organization meeting. So if there's any questions about any of the resources that we've shared or discussed in the past, or any comments need to happen about any of the board meeting practices as they currently stand, certainly a good opportunity to have those now and make any recommendations for the next board if required.
Looking for hands-on information or comments regarding status quo or new. I know that we talked about this a little bit in committee meeting and didn't see much desire to move to a new schedule, but if anyone has any motions or comments they want to make at the public meeting, that would be the time. Trustee or Vice Chair Cook?
I really appreciate the summary that was provided to us, and it is very interesting to see sort of the various, time slots, whether it's sort of during the day, evening, etc. But I would just go back to, our 4 years of experience, and others had experience sort of prior to that, and how it certainly had worked. It's hard to make decisions on a future board, sort of not knowing sort of the impact on them. And so, really based on that and how it sort of worked for us and for the community, I'm in support of the status quo.
Perfect, not seeing any other motions. I just want to thank administration and in particular Superintendent McDonald, because I know we've gone around the horn on this and looked at a bunch of different options and different models. And I think that sometimes you look to make sure you're doing the right thing for you. And I think we found out that we're doing the right thing for us.
Yeah, no, from time to time, taking a deep dive into existing practice, which I have had the pleasure of being part of for probably 12 or 13 years now, attending board meetings. And I've seen continuous improvement, or a mindset on the board of trustees to always look for ways to improve it. You've seen in your term a number of different improvements. Taking a break, taking a deep dive, and coming back and saying, "Hey, if what we have works, is not a bad thing." That's good. I thank you for that. We can put a bow on this one and put it away. Never talk about it again.
Well, not this turn.
Thank you.
All right. That's your report, nothing else?
That's all I've got to say this evening.
All right, we'll move to Associate Superintendent Oladelli.
Thank you. I'm not surprised. So I'm just looking for a couple of motions tonight on trustee compensation. So this was done by public members to look at aspiration for the next board and the upcoming election, to look at trustee compensation to make sure that they are in line with the industry and just to make sure that trustees are fairly compensated. So they did look at different options on what an adjustment could look like for compensation, just to make sure that every year it's not behind, that it does get adjusted for inflation, so it doesn't, it's not behind that, and we're not trying to play catch up. So the recommendation from the public members is to, beginning from the 26-27 school year, to adjust the compensation annually by the same rate as the whatever ATA, that's just teachers associations annual adjustments are, that the trustees would adjust their compensation the same with the same rates. So basically every year it would come back to the board in the spring to vote if you wanted to get the same amount or lower come in the spring, but then it will take effect for the following school year. So that just helps with budgeting and to make sure that everything is budgeted for. So that's the first recommendation. And with that, we would have to make adjustments to board policy 7 that just talks about trustee compensation. So if you wanted to go one by one with the motion and discuss each motion, or just go through both of what you said.
I think it might make sense to go through because they're a little bit different, so maybe we can do one at a time. So starting with options for trustee hold on one sec. Motion. So the recommended motion, the first one would be that the is in regard to compensation. So before, is anyone interested in making the motion here as recommended? That motion is trustee X move that the Board of Trustees amend board policy 7.1.6 to index its annual compensation to the Alberta Teachers Association ATA negotiated settlement from the start of the 26-27 school year. Trustee Olet?
I'd like to make that motion.
Like to make that motion? Okay, did you have anything you wanted to speak to in regard to that motion? Okay, any questions on that motion? So again, it was recommended by our public committee members. And just for reiteration, some of the reasons they liked it is aligned with the provincial standard. It was revenue expense balance, and it had the administrative expense alignment. So the administrative expenses are capped, and it takes into consideration those numbers. So. All right, not seeing any hands for discussion. I know we've had this at our board table a few times, so we've probably talked it to death now, trying to make a decision. All those in favor of that motion? Or
I'll see who will have.
okay, perfect. Okay, so the second motion was, as recommended, was trustee X move that the Board of Trustees approve option 1, 2, or 3 for benefits as outlined in this report. So just as a reminder, option 1 was status quo, where trustees continue to choose between to waive their health coverage and spending accounts if they have other benefits. The unused amounts are reallocated. Option 2 was a hybrid, and option 3 was a full flexibility opt-out where you could take the cash in lieu of the benefits. Did I explain that okay?
That's right.
Yeah, okay,
Sorry, if I could just
please.
add to it. So with the different options, actually wanted to point out for option 1 would be in line with current practice within the division, where if an employee was to waive their benefits, there's no flexibility within that. Option 2 again is just there's a lot of flexibility for the board if you wanted to go that route.
Fair point, thank you. Is anyone interested in making a motion? Which option were you thinking of, trustee?
1.
Status quo?
Yeah.
Okay, so trustee Martin, make the motion that we keep it as status quo. Did you want to speak to that motion?
I just sort of like, since the LA said it just follows current practice within the division, and I feel like when it comes to benefits and stuff, it's part of the package, and I just think that fits best, and I think it makes more sense, so.
Fair point. Anyone want to speak against that motion? Any discussion at all on that motion? Trustee Olet?
Question. So, if a trustee does not take the plan. Well, you didn't, Rob, for example, and Joan didn't, so they don't receive anything. Okay, okay. And that's,
So the status quo would mean it stays with the division to be allocated however.
Okay.
It doesn't, it's not earmarked for anything specific.
Okay.
All right, anything else before we vote on this motion? All those in favor? Well, perfect. Okay, we've got some direction there.
Thank you. So Associate Superintendent Oladelli will bring that recommendation and these motions forward to the organizational meeting when the new board meets after the municipal election.
I also just want to thank Associate Superintendent Oladelli. I believe, Director Greentree was involved in this.
I'm sure.
Shara was involved in this, and our audit committee members, our public members. We appreciate that it's never been something that we've done before where we've asked for public input onto it. And it's always been a bit of a bumpy road trying to set wages for yourself. So I appreciate that the future boards have a roadmap where they're not necessarily making that decision. It's based on a specific number and they don't get too far behind or ahead. So thank you for that. I forgot that in your, if I can just go back, because we were talking about bringing this to the org meeting.
Okay.
One of the recommended changes in that new draft calendar was a change in the organizational meeting from August to June.
Right.
And that was something that a lot of boards did, and it's not something that we discussed really at length, and because we didn't like the rest of the thing, or the rest of the. But I see a bit of merit in having that organizational meeting in June instead of August, as you just get the year going without having all of that. We would have our meetings in our calendar already. We would know where our time's allotted. We're able to, as board members, plan a little bit better. I'm wondering if the board would consider that as an additional motion now to this part.
I think we could do that. We could just ask the new board. I like the motion. Sorry, I'll waffle on that, but I like that motion saying, hey, we've lived this. Trust us, this is better.
Yeah, I think I'll change it.
Yeah.
Trustee Martin, you'll make that motion to move the organizational meeting from August to June, starting next year in the next calendar.
So there would,
Do you want to speak to it, or I've kind of spoke to it?
I like it. I think it makes sense. And it definitely, all the same thing that you said, it starts the year off right. It ends the year off good and starts the new year off right away. So when we come back, we're not figuring out who's fitting where. And sometimes in August, when we have that organizational meeting, it's hard for people to get to. So I think this sets us up for better success moving forward in the next school year. So.
Vice Chair Cook?
well, I will always go with consensus, but I find that unusual that you would have, because I've only known status quo was having had the meeting in August. In August, I sort of feel like, oh, it's like the start of the school year and it's like going to like a, starting the year off. So probably if we'd been meeting in June, I wouldn't know any different, but I sort of think it seems weird. So we actually would pick our school councils and our committees, and that would all be done in June.
Yeah.
And then and then there wouldn't be a meeting in August.
But there would still be a.
It'll be the board meeting, just the org meeting.
It wouldn't be dissimilar to what we're doing today.
Yeah,
All the planning for the next school year would happen, but at the end of the current school year, while all the experiences are fresh, all the,
So all the school council dates, et cetera, would be available to us in June.
well, we generally don't have those when we have our org meeting in August either.
we kind of go with, we think it's gonna be the second Tuesday.
Yeah, we take what their status quo is
Yeah.
and start with that.
But, sorry.
Yeah. No, I just was trying to get my head around what that was looking like.
Yeah. Any other comments or discussion on that motion? We're kind of bringing it up out of nowhere, so.
What does, are we able to ask how it would work for our leadership team?
I actually made this recommendation a few years ago.
Okay.
Now, I think it, from an organizational perspective, for us to go into the summer having that part of the next year planned, just that works a little more smoothly.
Director Burgess?
When, from our lens, that's when we set our dates, is in June for this school year. So I know, that's always part of it, is when do we think the board meetings and things are gonna be, so that we don't plan things that overlap with, board meetings or work of the board. And so that is when dates are set for the next school year at our level, is in June.
All right, not seeing any more hands. I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, that motion passed.
Thank you. Yeah, your meeting agenda. Which is gonna happen in June now.
Associate Superintendent Olivelli.
That's okay. That's okay. So, no, just a couple of information for, items for information. The first one is the, addition to the Composite High School. Just some good news there, or the update there. So we have received an, funding agreement from the province to kind of kickstart that process. So myself, Director Barron, met with, members of, Alberta Infrastructure, Education and Childcare, a couple of weeks ago, just to talk about process, what next steps are, so, which is exciting. So they've agreed that, the division, that we can lead the project, so we're gonna be looking to kickstart that pretty soon here. The goal would be to hopefully, have, get everything shown on the ground by spring next year, so. This, an update of that, stay tuned for more information, and, yeah. One update.
Any questions on Composite High School?
Okay, so the other one is, so Director Barron and his staff, they've been busy working on, the, so a couple of things with the GP Christian School, moving the portables, the modular classroom up to the facility, to support their, building, the school building and things like that. So that project is pretty much done. So the next step in that is just to put in the classroom technology and just to make sure it's ready by the time, the students get back, in about a week and a half. So that project is almost done. And then we also got a letter from the province, approving their lease request, for next year, for just over $400,000, which is about $13,000 more than we got for this current school year. So we have let them know that that funding has been approved, and then we can update the lease agreement that we have with the society currently. So just good. It's up per person. Like that.
I was wondering if there was any update to the Grand Prairie Christian School. I know they were getting modulars to help with that facilitate things, but no.
No, nothing as far as the construction.
Anything else for Associate Superintendent Olivelli? Thank you. Trustee Professional Learning and Sharing, did anyone have anything they wanted to add to that? All right, well, our board work plan is in here. There's any, well, it's not very full right now because the new year starts right away.
So the new board work plan with the draft, board meeting dates schedule has been prepared, and it will be attached to the governance framework as well, that we will post online. It'll be included in the September 9th agenda.
Excellent.
Built largely off of this year's work plan, similar reports, schedule of reports to the board, that sort of thing.
Perfect. All right, we have, in correspondence, we have a letter from the Sturgeon Public Schools to the Minister of Interministerial Collaboration. It was emailed back to you guys or if you have any comments on that. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Trustee Martin? Any discussion? All those in favor? Move in camera at 7:18. All right, looking for a motion to come out of camera. Vice Chair Cook, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And there was no actions arising from the in-camera discussion. So we will adjourn this meeting at 7:35 PM. Thanks, everyone.